Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, coaches around the world, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's your boy Road Dogg here with none other than, wow, how's the speech this morning? Other than the myth, the man, the legend himself, Karl Bryan. Big shooter. How are you? Just when I thought I had a great intro, I just blow it right out the gates, bud. Jeez.
You did great. I don't know, Road Dogg. You doing good, bud? What's happening, man? You and I were sitting down staring at each other over a beer yesterday. Maybe is that what it is?
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. I blame you for, well, it wasn't so much the beer as it was the bamboo rum that you're like, oh, let's have one. And then, of course, one led to two. So that was exciting. So I had to go home and take a friggin' nap after that. So I appreciate that. I'm with Road Dogg in the afternoon. How'd that go for you?
We're getting old, shoots. 2 rums. We both go home and have a nap. So there you go. All good. Everything's good, man. Everything's good. What about in Road Dogg's world?
Busier than busy can be. It's a beautiful thing. So I'm not going to complain about being busy. It's if I'm going to complain about it, I got to just take a look at my 80-20 is, I've heard some people say of where am I spending my time and prioritizing that. So you see, some of us are paying attention there, big fella.
Well done. And we are. Good stuff. So tell me, got some questions lined up, Shoots?
I sure do. Listen, I was thinking we should almost rename the podcast. Like Business Coaching Secrets, it's like, yeah, I get it. But what about the rabbit hole? Like, I just think it's so appropriate. I was thinking about it this morning. I'm like, no, it's just the rabbit hole with like the head magician, Karl Bryan. Like, it's perfect.
I'm kind of picturing a couple I don't know. You might be onto something, Shoots. Yeah, right? I don't know. Maybe we'll do a poll. We'll do a poll sometime.
There it is. Now, speaking of rabbit holes, perfect segue into the first question. Because we got a question here. Again, this is if I had to guess, this is the newer coach, because this individual just wrote, what is the best way to choose my market? So pretty broad in terms of the question, but can you maybe kind of tear that apart and pick it apart, kind of peel back the layers of the onion there for us?
Okay, so not niche, just best way to choose my market? Is that what it was?
Yeah, specifically market is the language that we're using here.
Okay, so all right, and another way of looking at this, some folks might, like thinking niche. Okay, best way to choose a market. And again, I'm going to go like for your client or for you. I'll just tell you, look, there's 4 steps. You're looking to choose a market, 4 steps. Just break it down: growing, problem, money, location, right? So just growing, problem, money, location. So number 1, you want to go to a growing market. You don't want to be going to a dying market. Pretty straightforward. Think of the pie versus your slice, right? So, some of the dumbest people on earth are out there, owning Botox and Medi Spas and absolutely crushing it. We talked recently, like there's roll-ups happening in that space like crazy, and they're getting, 10 to 15 multiples. Which, by the way, is overvalued, but they're sexy right now. It falls into anti-aging, but that pendulum, I dare say, will swing back. Who knows? I could be wrong, but I bet some money on it right here. But that pendulum will swing back, right? So, point being, best to choose a market or move into one that's growing and not stagnant or declining. Pretty straightforward. We've talked about that many times in the past. Just think anti-aging is your framework, right? It's like making money in real estate while the market is moving. It's impossible to make money, but then they all get caught with their pants down when the market stops moving. They're undercapitalized. So think of the gold rush days, Road Dogg, right? Like 5% of the folks made all the money. Right? Like they found the gold, but the guys that really crushed it were selling the shovels, the pans, the food, the supplies to those that were panning for gold, right? So rather than learning how to play poker and sitting on the wrong side of the table, like learn to create poker tournaments, right? Is that where I encourage you to go? I don't know. You tell me, is that a growing market? Is that something you have interest in? Is that something you have talents in? But before I went to try play poker, I'll give you the red hot tip. I'd be creating the tournaments. So and then of course there would be regulation, which by the way, regulation is a good thing because it keeps the dummies out. That means that if you fill out the paperwork, you follow the requirements of the regulation, you'd end up doing well, right? So, but bottom line, thinking that like, you want to complement a competitive market as opposed to going head to head. Like realtor is another example we've given many times. Like creating CRM for realtors would be like the equivalent of selling shovels during the gold rush, right? I created group coaching software. We just launched it here a couple of months ago. Frankly, it's going to be a game changer. We're going to be spending an enormous amount of time, money, focus, and resources there. But I've already felt that like my competitors are coming to me and saying, "Look, so A, can I use it? And B, can I start referring clients to it? And what's the affiliate arrangement look like? Yada yada yada." So we're in a competitive space of coaching, and I have built complementary, products, in this case, software. So all of a sudden your competition starts sending folks your way, right? So, and I know a guy, like he built $1 billion company, basically building websites for realtors that converted really well. And then the magic of them is that they saved the realtors a bucket load of money in and around ad spend, right? So bottom line, go to a growing market. I think that's pretty straightforward, and potentially be thinking complementary, as in selling shovels, as opposed to going head to head, like panning for gold, where others are panning for gold. That makes sense. So selling the shovels. So two, is there pain in the market? Is there a problem that needs to be solved, right? So if someone doesn't have cancer, they're not going to eat, look for, or buy your solution. And just look at the lineup at Starbucks this morning versus the lineup to buy, kale and spinach smoothies, right? But when they get cancer, there's no price that they won't pay. There's no amount of research that they won't do, right? So the more pain there is, the easier it is to sell. Like everybody, it's very common to miss your dentist appointment to get your teeth cleaned. But when you've got a toothache, you're 10 minutes early, right? So think pain. Is there a problem you're able to solve, right? That would be number two. Number three, is it easy to find, right? Are they easy to find? Are the clients, the prospects easy to find? So think associations, trade shows. Are they hanging out on Facebook? If they are, where are they? Is there like a lot of Facebook groups in and around it? Would be very easy to research. About 15 minutes. A total newbie could work that out, or LinkedIn groups as well, or like a location. I used to live in downtown Vancouver, outside of Marina. And I swear there was more dogs than people, right? There's like one person walking 3 dogs, and they own, this isn't a dog walking service. I mean, they own the dogs, right? There's more dogs than people. All of the restaurants, welcome dogs, yada, yada, yada. If you had like the equivalent, think McDonald's and fast food. If you had like a fast mobile dog grooming service, where they could come, get their dog groomed really, really quickly and then keep walking with their dog. Look, you'd be successful on steroids. What I'm getting at there, whether that's a great example, a horrific example, the example that I want to give you is that all these dogs are there. And then my question is, what could you sell dogs, that they need, and then would come with a reasonable profit margin, right? You'd have yourself a booming biz, right? Bottom line, you want them to easy to find, and then money. Do they have the money, right? People in that, like the example that I just gave you, this is a really expensive place to live. Those folks had a lot of money, right? Like I'll get asked all the time, Road Dog, I want to teach business to kids, right? And like, that's okay. Probably not a bad idea. But the bottom line is you would have to market to mom and dad because kids don't have any money, right? Like you see how like your marketing would need to be tweaked. So, coaching, like, again, I've used this example in the past. Like if you got a massage therapist that charges $100 for a massage and you charge $2,000 a month for your coaching, they got to do 20 massages to be able to break even, right? So that's not an example of a client that I'd be going to versus like say a landscaping business and they charge, $20,000 to come and manicure the backyard, and then there's $10,000 roughly of profit. Well, if you're $2,000 a month, that's 24 grand a year. They have to get 2.5 clients in an entire 12-month period. And hopefully you could pull that off in, 30, 60, definitely 90 days. So you're free for the rest of the year, right? Like that's way more of an attractive client. But bottom line is you want to help your client find their market. You want to go to a market that's growing. You need to know that there's going to be pain. Again, you don't want to be selling dog food or dog vitamins. You want to be selling dog food, right? Is there a problem there to be solved? Because see, if you go into dog vitamins, you'd have to go into the game of education. Okay, and the game of education is an incredibly expensive and difficult game to play. Okay, you'd rather just be selling aspirin. Okay, so number one, is it growing? Number two, is there a pain or a problem to be solved? Number three is, are they easy to find? And number four, a high unit of sale, right? Like again, do they have the money? Don't sell the kids. They don't have money, right? So growing, problem, money, location is the formula, Road Dog. So that's what I'd say. And maybe just in closing also, and I've talked about, niching your coaching business, passion, experience and expertise, right, are also things that I would factor into it. Because if you're passionate about something, I don't believe in, doing what you love and then thinking you're going to make millions. Although that does happen, and it's not the worst framework in the world, you'd be significantly better to do what you're good at. That's where you make money, right? Like I love to play goal in hockey, but I'm a significantly better goal scorer, right? So like it just doesn't make sense. No matter how much I love it, that's probably not where my magic's going to be. Maybe a horrific example, a good example: do what you're good at as opposed to do what you love is a significantly better framework. But if you're going to pick a coaching niche, if your client's going to pick a niche, it'd be better if they liked it, right? But what's way better is, are they good at it? So Road Dog, growing, problem, money, location that's the kind of four-step formula, the 4 words that I would use when helping my client choose what do they say, market or / kind of niche. What do you think? There you go.
I never knew that you like gold. Like I'm picturing like Cliff Ronning in gold right now. You know what I mean?
You know what? When I was a kid, true story. Okay, my dad tells this story. My dad loves to tease me, so he would do a couple. So when I was a kid, I was a go-in. Actually, I loved it. The only problem is I like to skate too much, so I would skate out way too far, and I'd kind of join the play, and it was a bit of a gong show. But anyway, so I caught one time, because obviously I wasn't the tallest guy in the world. So I'm a kid, and this guy takes up like his kids. My dad tells the story. The guy's way bigger than me. I'm playing with kids older, and he takes a shot, and I'm way shorter than the net. And I put my hand on my head, like I catch the puck, but like imagine a goalie standing there. But I don't know I just know that it's not in the net. And I don't know if the puck is in between my glove and my helmet or if it's in my glove. But all I know is I'm not moving. And my dad said like I was there for like a ridiculously long period of time with my hand on my head, and everybody in the stands was just pissing themselves. And then there's another story he says about, we played against this team. They were called the Properties in Calgary. They were really good, and they lit us up. It was just embarrassing. And my dad said that I got a sunburn. Like when you score in hockey, there's a red light that will go on behind you. So my dad teases me that I had a sunburn at the end of the game because we got our butt kicked so bad.
What was the goalie? Was it Red Light Rascal? What was it? What was the name? Wasn't there a goalie?
Red Light Rascal. Rascot. That's it. Yeah.
Rascot. There you go. Hey, listen, coming back to your answer here for the niche, you and I talked quite a bit yesterday actually about high margin businesses. I have a question about gross profit margin, pardon me. But in terms of identifying your niche, would you consider somebody's margins as maybe something to look for as well? Like would you want to rather work with a higher margin business than a lower margin business?
So yes, high five, absolutely. But also what I would do is I would go to them and I would help them create, like the massage therapist. If she's charging $100 for massages, the first thing that I say look, here's a question that I used. We've said this in the podcast, but you met me in 2005. One of the questions that I would ask you, I'd say, what do I buy from you for 10 grand? And today, inflation and maybe a bit of growth, I would say, what do I buy from you for 25 grand? But at the end of the day, I was looking for a $10,000 unit of sale, and then I wanted like a 50% margin. So let's just say $5,000 of profit. Because the way I looked at it, if I was going to be 25 grand for my coaching, say 2 grand a month, 24 grand a year, I had to know that I was going to be able to pay my way really quickly so that I could say to you, look, Road Dog, guess what? I'm free from here on in. So absolutely. If they don't, so Road Dog, I'm answering that two ways. One's yes, but two, I think to myself, can I help him create that $10,000 unit of sale? More ideally, a $25,000 unit of sale with roughly 50% margins. So I would help you create that. So if you're a landscaper and you're mowing lawns, the first thing I say is, okay, look, let's start doing some let's start doing some, landscape gardening. Like let's not mow lawns. Let's go and, bring some rocks in and, bring some flowers in and really pretty this place up and then maintain it as well in a perfect world. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm just thinking of maybe even if you know an industry and you know what their margins should be,
Yep.
and then as we discussed yesterday, taking a look at somebody's P&Ls and being able to quickly identify like, whoa, these guys, there's a lot of upside here.
Yeah.
Like that's got to help a coach out tremendously.
Well, we do 100%. And as you like with profit acceleration software, we've got like what happens is it automatically populates the industry average. Like let's say that you're going to sit with a restaurant. Well, you just click restaurant, and then it will tell you with the templated, the industry averages for gross profit margin, net profit margin. So it's built right in. But yeah, absolutely, Road Dog. It's just a superpower, man. Like the end, absolute freaking superpower. And other people that everybody's talking about funnels, right? And really, this is where the magic is, man. So there you go.
So, okay, now obviously we've spoken a lot about gross profit margin a lot lately, right? So
Yep.
other than just increasing price, can you share, like, are there other ways to do it and to increase gross profit margin?
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Greg. Yes. Let me answer this two different ways, right? Firstly, I said it a second ago, and again, I want to speak straight to the business coaches and frankly, the business coaching industry. Like, you don't understand margins because some people are listening to this, Road Dog, and they're like, oh my God, like they tuned out when we said gross profit margin. They thought to themselves, I'm not an accountant. I don't want to pretend to be an accountant. I don't know. This isn't my world. And they want to talk about cute funnels, right? If you don't understand margins, you don't understand business. Okay. And I hope that punches you straight in the mouth because ultimately your job, kind of Road Dog just alluded to it a minute ago, is to make these guys more money. So would you go to, is that an important part of deciding who you're going to work with and how you work with them? And the answer is absolutely. So just stop that story inside your head of I'm not a math guy, I'm not an accountant, I can't read financial statements. I want to push you there, right? The same way that a metaphor, I walk into a room, okay? I just don't want to stub my toe on the coffee table. I'm not an electrician. I don't understand why I click the button and the light turns on, but I just want there to be light, right? I want you to think of that as your metaphor. You don't have to be able to create financial statements. You need to know what you're looking for, right? So just thinking about that. And of course, the coaches that work with us, right? We've got 8 videos that we provide them that they can sell to their clients or to their market. And then also it educates them at what I believe to be the highest level to say, look, here are the real basics of, a balance sheet, an income statement, and a cash flow statement. But like, Road Dog, if your client has 15% net margins, right? And then you help them increase those to 20%. That's not a 5% increase. It's a 25% increase, right? And by the way, if your coaching client, if they only made, let's say your client or your prospect made $100,000 last year, over the last 12 months. Okay, well, when you increase that margin, what did I say, from 15 to 20, you just put 20, and on average, you just put $25,000 into their bank account. And if you're $2,000 a month, 24 grand a year, you just covered their fees, right? They didn't learn anything new. They didn't hire anybody new. They didn't sell anything new. In fact, they kind of did less, and now they have, more time for their kids. And that's a client that's going to love you, right? But look, okay, gross profit margins. Look, there's 6 ways to increase gross profit margins, right? Real simple. Um, and by the way, as I'm saying this, Road Dog, like, okay, wealth is built with recurring revenue. Okay, so let's make sure that I'm not talking about gross profit margin and everybody just thinks they have to have these massive units of sale. Recurring revenue equals profit. Okay, so let's make sure that we're building our businesses, we're building our clients' businesses properly, and not just going and creating what high ticket sales, right? Which also kind of makes me barf in my mouth a little bit because it's the guys who are selling it, like they think that that's just the solution, right? Okay, so let me go. There's 6 ways to do it. You're going to increase not just the unit of sale, but you're going to increase the gross profit margin on the lifetime value of the client. Am I wording that right? Like I want to build gross profit margin in, but not just on the one-off sale. I want to do it as a framework. I want to do it as a business model, right? Hopefully I'm explaining that properly. But so think of this way, 6 ways to do it. 1 is to increase your prices. Just waffled on about that. Most people haven't raised their prices in 3 years because they think all their clients are going to run away. That's normally not what happens. And then the ones that do run away are the ones that they kind of want to run away, right? So number 1 is increase your prices. Everybody knows that. Everybody's heard that, right? 2 is to lower your expenses. I talk about that a lot. It's not very sexy. It doesn't have the same feel of, the 4-hour work week or The Secret, or doing what you love and making millions, which is all kind of horse pucky kind of concepts, right? But lowering your expenses, you just go to their credit card statements, go to their P&L, stare at their expenses, bingo, bango, bongo. Number 3 would be to get their clients to buy more consistently. I tried to kind of frame that just a minute ago, which is recurring revenue equals profit. Okay, so again, I don't want to sell you. I'd give you the coffee machine to sell you the coffee. I'd give you the dog to sell you the dog food. Is where I'm coming from there. Okay, number 4 would be to cross sell. You've all been to McDonald's, right? Do you want fries with that? Do you want an apple pie? Most people think of that as an upsell. They kind of mess it up. That's a cross sell. So do you want fries with that? Do you want an apple pie with that? If you got a lawyer, do you want a will with that? Right? Bingo, bango, bongo. Make the lawyer. You just take that to a law office. You make them a lot of money. Pay your coaching fees with that one question if they adopt it. Number 5 is upsell. Okay, so again, do you want me to supersize that? Do you want me to turn your meal into do you want me to turn that into a meal? Is what they say at McDonald's, right? So that's number 5 is upsell, and then number 6 is downsell, which is one that again most folks aren't thinking about, but it's just, it's finding a way to not allow, like one of the things that I would do back in the day with coaching, is that we would, we'd have these coaches and we'd have a sick $10,000 program. And then the person couldn't be convinced to buy the $10,000 program. So we'd say, look, here's what we're willing to do. We are willing to work with you. And then we'd frame this up different ways. But this is me downselling coaching. I'm willing to work with you for the first 90 days because we know we're going to knock it out of the park. And I really believe that $100,000 that we just framed up over the last hour can hit your bank account in the first 90 days. But why don't we do this? We're going to charge you $2,000 for 90 days, get out of jail free. If you do continue to work with us, it's going to be $12,000 instead of $10,000. But we're going to work with you for 90 days for just $2,000. And in many instances, we got 1,000 or 2,000 the week before. I'm not going to go into the semantics of that sale, but what I am saying is that we would get $2,000. We would offer a money back guarantee to go do a bunch of work on their business. We'd come back with a roadmap. So we'd kind of just keep the money that we'd already taken, 2,000, not give it back, but be willing to work with them for an extended period of time, like 90 days, where they would realize all this. The bottom line is not having a downsell. Again, this is a bigger one, but when we, with a client, they would sell swimming pools. And if you know somebody that's about to spend $50,000 to build a swimming pool, they've got kids under the age of 10, and in most cases, kids under the age of 5. Those are just the people who build swimming pools in their backyards. So in some cases, they couldn't be convinced. But what we would do is we would explain to them, 3, 4, 5-year-olds can have just as much fun in a jacuzzi and then we would downsell just call it a $10,000 souped up jacuzzi, and just explain to them that their kids can have as much fun in this jacuzzi as they can in a swimming pool in a lot of ways. So why don't we get that? Why don't we frame up your house so that when it comes time to do the pool in 1, 2, 3 years, your house, the electrical, your house will be ready to go. And we downsell basically a jacuzzi to a guy who couldn't afford the swimming pool. Whereas most people will just, pack up their goodies, not keep in touch, forget that those people exist. They didn't spend $50,000 on the swimming pool. They don't sell anything, right? So anyways, and then when you do build a jacuzzi, now there's been a transaction and the chances of selling them a swimming pool significantly increase. Bottom line, 6 ways to increase gross profit margin on your client relationship, and that's increasing prices, lowering expenses, get them to buy more often, like more consistently. Do you want fries with that? Do you want apple pie with that? And then upsell. Do you want me to supersize it? And then a downsell. So basically, okay, so that's the first way. And then there's 6 areas. But now I'm going to go, I think, Road Dog, where everybody goes and they say, don't lower your prices. What do? Just add value. But I feel like that can be a little bit of a throwaway line. So how do you go about doing that, right? Like Rolex, Ferrari. I've often said this: write down your favorite brands in the world, and then your list and my list would be similar. And there's Louis Vuitton, Ferrari, Rolex, etc. Like luxury brands have luxury margins, and this is a great thing. Okay, but let's go deeper. And I would say that there's 3 ways to increase the value. You've got practical value, you've got inherent value, and then you've got social value, right? So the token way, the token way is just, quote unquote adding value. But what I'm trying to do, Road Dog, is kind of, break those down into, how could you, just go like, how do you create it? How do you communicate it? Maybe we want to amplify it. Definitely want to multiply it, right? And by the way, before I get into this, attracting the right, I'm doing rabbit hole thing here, Road Dog, but anyways, that attracting the right buyer is going to allow you to implement, practical, inherent, and social value at a significantly higher level, right? So it's just starting with that, is attracting the right folks is absolutely critical. Like I've often said, rather than become a realtor, I would own a cleaning company for one reason. I just said it a minute ago. Repeat business, recurring revenue equals profit. Repeat business equals profit, right? Well, if you're going to start a cleaning company, you got to go to affluent areas, right? Like if you start a cleaning company and you go to the wrong postal codes or the wrong zip codes, you're probably going to have a heck of a time, because in the right area, trustworthiness and reliability are I'm going to say far more important than what they pay you. And again, individual family, that will adjust a little bit, but no doubt you get the idea. If you're going to start and I don't care where you live, that's completely irrelevant, right? Where you go to sell is the affluent areas. The same way that if I was a realtor, and I would never be a realtor because there's no repeat sales, I'd go into real estate, but I would do it in a way where there would be, recurring revenue and repeat sales. Otherwise, I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, right? So a cleaning business is a business that I would go into, because when you sign up the client, they're going to keep you around for a long time, right? It's like in my family, and I've talked about this in different podcasts, but like our cleaner, I mean, she sits down and has dinner with us. In fact, our old cleaner from our old house when we lived in a different city, which was Vancouver, she comes here in the summer, and her family, like we go, say we take off to Mexico, and then they come and live in our house, which is it's a nice house with a pool and that sort of thing. So they come here on their holiday, and that's our old cleaner. And then our cleaner now, like she has dinner, with us. She doesn't have kids. She's kind of, my daughter loves her. She'll spend more time in my daughter's room than she does in the rest of the house, for the simple reason that she wants my daughter's room to be, she wants the bears in the right place. She wants the pillows to be the right way. And then, of course, Sage comes home from school, and the first thing she does is come running into her room to see the way that Wheezy did her house, right? What I'm getting at is that we have a relationship with our cleaner. We would never let her go. And I think that a good cleaning company will be able to do that. Hopefully I'm not, I think that's important. But okay, back to value. Okay. You want to increase the gross profit margin. the lightweight, the guy with no experience says raise your price and thinks that he sounds intelligent. You really got to break this down. So think practical value is really obvious. Pen, paper, a car, a computer. Look, if you have a computer and a laptop, one has very different practical value than the other one, right? Desktop sits on your desk, and then a laptop you can put underneath your arm, carry it with you, go to another city and have all your stuff, right? That's pretty obvious, hopefully. Practical value, build something that's better, which you and your client should absolutely be thinking about that, right? As a business coach, become the best business coach in the entire city, and suddenly, you're not going to be light on clients, I can guarantee you, if you stick with it and you're totally committed and you put yourself out there. Inherent value. Look, the cleaning business, reliability and trustworthiness. Like, A, are they going to show up? And then B, when they do show up, could you have your Rolex watch laying out and cash on the counter and not worry in the slightest that it would ever go anywhere, right? So you hire the right cleaner. There's an inherent value there, and significantly more important than how much you pay her or them will be this, right? And then there's social value, which is, when you buy a Louis Vuitton purse, everybody knows you spent a lot of money, or you drive a Ferrari, or you have a Rolex on your arm, you have an elevator in your house, you're living in the right neighborhood with the right, zip code, right? That's where social value. So you're helping your client, and you want to help them with gross profit margin. Again, the lightweights will go to, increase your price, and they think that that's the solution. And then they go, you got to add more value, not lower our price. But that's the way. Like, I'd encourage you to write those down and then go into each of the three: inherent, practical, and social, in terms of how you could, like, if Tom Brady's wife bought from you, you will create social value with your company by consistently mentioning that she's a client and then you're a client. So you can say the same dog groomer, like my dog groomer does Tom Brady's dog, and then does my dog too. There's social value. It might sound lame to you, but there's people who that's not lame at all. That's like, well, wow, that's the same dog groomer that I want. Right? Good example, bad example, I don't know. But it's one of the reasons why you guys talk, like, we have a program called Live Event Mastery, and we help our coaches go through that. I encourage all business coaches. Not all of our coaches do it, because some of them public speaking, they'd rather die than public speak, which is a lot of people. But I can tell you that doing live events has a compounding effect of authority, a little bit of celebrity, depending upon how good they are at doing it. The referrals will step up. The joint ventures will absolutely step up. It's a part of the program if somebody does it. The ability to charge higher prices, as opposed to 12 grand, you'll be able to charge 24, 36, 48, 120 grand. You can, there's $100,000 for coaching right now. As I say that, you might be thinking, how in the world? Well, I can tell you that we have coaches that charge, much more than that, by the way, but $100,000. If you don't have preeminence over the coaching client, you're not going to be able to, charge those types of fees. But believe me, the guy who spends $100,000 on his coach, you know what he does? He tells everybody that he spends $100,000 on his coach. Think about that, right? So you get like an inbuilt. You ever heard me talk about growth loops? And if you don't know what I mean by a growth loop, you want a little company called Facebook. The entire premise of their marketing plan, and Hotmail for that matter, and so many others, a growth loop built the company, right? So when you have somebody bragging about how much they spend on your coaching, this is when you cracked it, folks. This is when really good things are about to come your way, right? But anyway, so that's the three types of value: practical, inherent, social. Go through that with your coaching client and try help them. And this isn't the get rich quick. This isn't the 4-hour work week. This isn't the one coaching call with your client and magic happens. This is going to take a little bit of time. They're going to have to be able to get their head around, building in that value and the way that they're going to be able to build up that value. But rather than just going at it, Road Dog, I guess what I'm trying to say, and like I answered that two ways. One is there's 6 ways to increase the gross profit margin of your client relationship. But then there's let's build some more value. Let's create luxury. The best thing about luxury goods are luxury margins, right? Again, the most successful companies in the world have pretty much got that, or most successful brands in the world, which is important. There's a distinction there. They've all got gross profit margins. So, Road Dog, what do you think? That's what I'd say. I think that there's some magic in that. I think that the average business coach is not thinking along those lines, and I think that there's magic there. But what do you think?
I think it's interesting when you go into the psychology of it all and just saying somebody's spending $100,000 on a coach, like it's an ego thing too, right? Like, and no matter what, like they're going to defend their decision because it's a huge commitment that they made.
Yeah.
Right. So someone's gonna be like, holy smokes, you spent $100,000 on a coach, and they will defend it. It's crazy. It's wild. So that's an interesting, a whole other conversation we can have on just the psychology of that alone, I'm sure. Yeah. But I want to ask you, so obviously we're talking a lot now about, the niche and all that sort of stuff and all these other things that you can do. But like when I'm looking at the finding buyers, right? Because we got a question here. It says, how do I attract the right buyers? And that's sort of an interesting question as well, because a part of me is like, well, psychology, but like, how do you answer that? Like, how do you attract the right buyers? I know it's a broad question, right? Obviously.
Yeah, that's a good, okay, I said it a minute ago, if I own a cleaning company, again, I got to be good at cleaning. I got to have that practical value. But if I go to affluent areas, I got to tell you, my chances of success are through the roof. But see, most people, they don't live in the affluent area and they don't feel welcome. And you just said it a minute ago, it's just psychology, it's psychology. So there's geographic and psychographic. Okay, so what I would do, I'm a successful business coach and I don't have commitments like young children. Right? Like I got a buddy, literally spoke to him yesterday about this. He makes $300,000 a year, coaching, got a really good, framework. I got him into it to do. But I'm like, man, move to Mexico, right? Like you could live on pesos and he's not 100%. He could do this. A lot of other folks can't, and that's fine, right? You gotta, it's not one size fits all here always, but like I'd move to Mexico, live on pesos and then charge US dollars. Like all day long, twice on Sunday. Imagine how good that would be. Or South Africa, same thing. The rand. I don't know what the rand is nowadays, but it's 10-1, right? The U.S. dollar. Imagine the lifestyle. If you were charging $1,000 a month, that would be like living in South Africa charging $10,000 a month, right? Like I think that there's magic in that. Bottom line is that thinking maybe that there's a bit of a sight. Somebody heard that and went, yeah, duh. And then somebody else heard it, went, oh my gosh, how have I never thought of that, right? But it's just a different framework. So you've got, geographic, right? Like if I live in Mexico, I go, instead of going to, the slums, which I don't know, am I allowed to say that? Am I going to get canceled? But you know what I mean? Like you're in Mexico. I think the slums exist. I wouldn't be going there to sell business coaching. That's for freaking sure. I'd be going to the USA, and I would definitely be going to Mexico City or the affluent areas in Mexico City to sell my high-end stuff, right? I know that sounds straightforward, but I got to tell you, a number of times I've said that to somebody and they're like, oh, wow, that's a bit of a change. And then there's psychographic, right? Okay, so I've been driving traffic online since 2005, right? Drive lots of it. And in fact, I'm going to write a blog post about this soon. So I'm going to take this in a different direction. There's tactical offers, strategic offers, and principle-based offers, right? And that principle-based offer is going to get less leads, but a higher quality. Here's what I mean. Okay, so a tactical offer will bring in the lowest end buyers. They are the most common times a million. So I mentioned earlier how to sell high ticket coaching online, right? The worst prospects will be brought in by that. They pay the least, complain the most, but they line up to buy. And then it's often, unfortunately, from people that really don't know, really don't care. They don't even practical value. They don't even know how to follow through on what it is that they promise. Like they wouldn't know a high ticket offer if I punched them in the mouth. Like they have a low ticket offer for you on how to sell a high ticket offer. Right? Like think of the alignment of that might be a little bit questionable. Anywho, so you've got tactical offers that are the most common, and these will bring in the most prospects, but the worst prospects as a rule. And of course, there are always anomalies, but I don't play with anomalies. I play with percentages. And I believe there to be magic in that statement, right? Now, a strategy offer. You need strategy. Road Dog needs strategy. I need strategy. My clients need strategy. If you're listening to this, you need strategy, right? But when you drive traffic online to an offer around strategy, you're going to get less opt-ins, less prospects. But generally speaking, you'll get a higher level of prospect than you will off of the offer that I said ago tactically. Road to sample. This, I'm just trying to think of like the secret to differentiating yourself as a business coach. I don't know. Probably if you gave me some time, I could think of something better than that. But I think that would be like differentiating yourself would be strategic as opposed to tactical, Facebook ad, funnel. The secret to differentiating yourself would be an example. So that's going to be a strategy offer, less opt-ins, but I think, go test it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not. From my testing over, a long period of time and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars spent online driving traffic. So this is what I found. But then so principal offer. So you say to me, yeah, but give me the Mac Daddies, give me the affluent guys, give me the higher quality of individual. Like so a principal driven ad or principal driven messaging will bring a higher level of prospect, but again, significantly less of them. So now what I'm trying to think of is a principal driven offer, becoming the best business coach you can be, right? So we've said for a long time that creating the highest quality business coaches on the planet, right? So becoming the best business coach you can be would be an example of how a higher level individual would hear that and then they would be attracted to it, right? And again, the internet marketing guy, the funnel hacker, this isn't what they're doing, right? They're not helping you, think this through. And again, this is, there's tactical, there's strategy, and then there's principal offers, right? So I think there's power in that, right? Like, how are you going and putting yourself out there, right? And then Road Dog, this might be a bit rabbit hole-ish, but like triple X factor, right? So like X's across the entire page. If you really want to get, so let's call them now, like we just said a minute ago, $100,000 clients. You hear Tony Robbins talk about, $1 million clients plus upside. And I would imagine that you hear that. And if you're listening to this, I'd be amazed if you haven't heard him. It's not by accident that he says that. Okay. This is a red hot tip. That's part of his messaging. There's very little that comes out of Tony Robbins' mouth that is not strategic and not in an unethical way. He's more, the more you learn about the guy, the more you learn about NLP and hypnosis and, the guy's brilliant. End of story, right? Brilliant businessman, wordsmith, NLP. He's forgotten more about NLP than some people will ever know, right? But here's what I'm getting at. Triple X factors. I want you to think about your spirit, right? This is where the X factor comes in. Like I get asked, Road Dog asked me a question. Why do some coaches have what we'll call the X factor and have high-end clients literally chase them and then others do not, right? So I would go to spirit. And again, these are the clients that you say jump and they say how high as opposed to why, right? The client that's going to say why is the one that you want to avoid, and the one that's going to say how high because you told them to jump. I mean, this is a good, and we'll assume that you're really, really good at what you do. Okay. So don't mess that up for the rest of us. As I teach you this or show you this, or hopefully you can go and deploy on this. But like, if you want to create a magnetic quote unquote spirit, right, that attracts those 7-figure, and I want to think clients, the guys that are attracted to Tony Robbins, and then I put Seth Godin in there. I think he's an absolute gem. Just think of the highest end individuals. And I don't put Grant Cardone in there, although the guy can sell like a madman, but I just don't put him in that category, not even close, right? Like, where I love Jay Abraham. My opinion is he's not. I don't think that he's magnetic. I've often said, like, Jay Abraham still to this day kind of goes deal to deal. He's never really built like a real company, at least that I know of. Maybe he has that I don't know about, but studied the guy for years and years. And he is brilliant. He is a genius, but he's never become, like Tony Robbins-esque, in my opinion, right? So now you say to me, okay, like, how do we do that? Just revisit what you did, yesterday, last week, last month, last quarter, last year, right? And then, but be honest with yourself and do an inventory, of the words that you used. When I said that tactical, strategic, and then principle, I want you to think of the way that you speak out loud in terms of attracting clients, educating clients. What sort of words you're using? What sort of stories are you telling? And by the way, I literally put minutes ago on Facebook that in order to you got to, instead of trying to gain, I want you to become. Instead of getting clients, my question is, who do you have to become so that they're attracted to you? That's kind of where I'm going. That's where what I mean by your spirit, right? Who have you chosen to associate with? Right? Like I'm going through something right now where there's like, I will go to my inbox over the 1 hour roughly that Road Dog and I have done this, and there'll be somebody reaching out to me and they will want to do a joint venture or they want to interview me or something along those lines. And what I have chosen to do, and if you read my emails, you'll see right at the bottom, I'm just like, I don't do joint ventures. I'm not doing interviews. I've just chose to associate with significantly, you know what I mean? I'm just building my company and then you build yours and let's just be friends and let's get on with it. That's just my approach. Hopefully that doesn't sound anything other than the way it just meant to be. And that's what I've chosen to do. It's not good. It's not bad. It's not certainly not egotistical. It's just that's the way that I'm approaching it. But I can tell you that I get approached on a daily basis with somebody that's like magically got the solution. I get 100,000 people get my emails every single day, and I get 1,000 active clients who are all coaches, and that is attractive to certain people. Unfortunately, some of the people that it's, and a lot of them you've heard of, it's just not people that I want to associate with. Again, I'm saying that I'm feeling, hopefully that's coming across properly, right? Forget me, you. I want to know what sort of people you're associating with. I want to know if I go to your Facebook posts don't change it, go to it and have a look over the last 12 months. What do your posts look like? How are you speaking? How are you engaging? Are you super educational? Are you salesy? Like here, your spirit is right there. You might not even realize it, right? The books that you've read, right? Like I've talked about like Ray Dalio Principles, talking about principle, one of the best books I've ever written. It's literally as I stand here, I turn around and it's there. In fact, as I turn around at my bookshelf and there's Trailblazer, Mark Benioff, Salesforce.com. But these are the books that I'm reading. These are the people that I'm personally attracted to. I don't give a rat's backside about me. Who are you attracted to? What books are you reading? What mentors? Because let me tell you, the books that you're reading, you don't realize it, but those words are coming out of your mouth. Their style is coming out of your mouth, right? What mentors are you following? Are you following Grant Cardone or are you following Seth Godin? I would dare say there's a very slim chance that you're following both at the same time. Why? Because there's a certain flow. There's just a certain space that you're in. So I want you to be thinking about that. So I hope, places you've spent time in, like let's say Road Dog, hours in the gym versus hours in the bar versus hours in worship, hours reading and learning, right? There's no Road Dogs and I started, we literally had a drink yesterday, right? And we had a couple beers and a couple rums, actually it was a couple rums, not beer, but we had two. We got families to go to, places to be. We dust each other, we give each other a high five and then we get on with it, right? But I'm no way, shape or form saying that you shouldn't, and that you might be into that, you might not be into that. It's are you spending more time in the bar than the gym? And if you are, I think that's going to show up in other ways, right? And speaking of showing up, how are you showing up? The level of conviction in your voice, the level of passion, the number of times that you've shown up. The quality and the number maybe of success stories, the quality and authenticity. Maybe it's the authenticity of the testimonials. If I read testimonials, like what do they read like? It's like, oh, I never, made so much money in my life after spending 2 hours with this individual. Well, I don't know, like that might not be the testimonial from a principally driven. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like think about somebody saying, I've never had somebody push me so hard, never felt better about myself, never had a better, like one thing, Road Dog, you follow him, you're going to see like he's always out with his family. He's always mentioning his kids. He's always mentioning his wife. Like it just oozes out of him what he's about. And every Saturday night, I know that him and his family are going out to dinner and having a family dinner, and then he posts it, right? That tells you everything you need to know about Road Dog. And if you meet him and you have a drink with him, this is the type of conversation you're having. That's his spirit, right? So I don't know. The power, the pull, and the inspiration. So I think that might be Road Dog. Like, how do you, okay, and this isn't the 4 hour work week. This isn't the, reading The Secret and magically, solving X, Y, Z. This is how you're showing up. And unfortunately, you can't fix this over a short period of time. All you can do, if you like this and if you want to start attracting, the $100,000 clients instead of the $1,000 a month clients, who you are, who you become, the way that you show up, the level of power in your voice and your body language, the books that you're reading, the mentors that you're following, et cetera, the community that you're in, hopefully the software that you're using, hint, hint, hint. I think that if you joined our community, like, you might get pushed a little bit. Maybe you won't. I don't know. Have a crack at it. But that's what I would say, Road Dog. Maybe a little bit differently than what might have answered it in the past, or what I'd say. But I just look, there's tactical offers, strategic offers, principal offers. And then I sort of delved into, like, a principal offer is one thing and it will attract certain individuals, but the person who you are is really the way that you're going to get those really, really high level clients, and probably the ones that they desire. Road Dog, let me throw that to you. What do you think about what I just said? Anything you'd add, subtract, comment on? What do you think?
No, I love it. The crazy part is there's actually like at least 2 more questions I want to ask you, but I want to give it the time and space, because I honestly think this is such an important topic. Like, I really do, because we're talking about tackling, balance and, and not just work, but building that great lifestyle. So, like, I don't want to cut you short, because you and I, we talked earlier about, well, maybe we go, like, I just think, honestly, dude, this is such a huge, huge thing. This is, for me anyways, because this is the biggest thing in my life. I don't just want to build a business for the sake of being this big business. No, like, as you said, family is the most important thing in my life. So for me, that's a big part of it. So I don't know. I kind of feel we need to carry this over into next week, because I'd love to get really deep into how to do that in terms of managing, building a 7-8 figure business, whatever, without losing sight of the other important things in your life, right? Like, I just think that there's that. And then going into, because I know that when we've talked about it in the past, you talked about, the 4 motivational areas, and how freedom was the big one for me, and that really unlocked a lot. I just think we're going to talk for at least another half an hour. This is the rabbit hole show, folks, if you haven't noticed. So if you're good with that, like, let's table that for next week. I just think that's a huge topic. If anybody has any other questions on that, please email them in, because I just think that's a huge thing. Are you good with that, dude? Like,
I love it, Shoots. Yeah, no, I'd agree with what you said. I hope that everybody heard kind of, like, I just think who you are, like, again, rather than gain, okay, it just, and maybe here's the way we'll end her, right? Rather than gaining, you want to be becoming, right? So rather than thinking, how can I get clients? How can I make 10 grand a month, 50 grand a month, 100 grand a month? How can I crack 7 figures? Ask yourself this question: who do I need to become in order to attract those levels? Who do I need to become so that those types of folks are attracted to me? Like, I maybe said differently, Road Dog. So how do you need to show up? Is that right? Like, again, just how do you need to show up? How many emails do you need to send out? What are your posts on Facebook need to look like? What are your posts on, LinkedIn need to look like? What sort of joint ventures do you need to form? When you go to form a joint venture, how are you going to position it? Are you going to go to here's an example. When I go to an accountant and I want to form a joint venture, I know that if I go to him, I don't talk about how much money I'm going to put into his bank account. I go to his heart and I go to him. I say, look, how many businesses have wound up over the last 12 months? How many businesses have fallen over? How many clients have you lost? Not because they went to another accountant, because they folded up the company. I go, that's why I'm here, right? Because again, he's had the tears. He's seen the separations. He's seen the divorces. Unfortunately, he's seen some deaths called suicide. And when you talk to him on that level, and I think maybe that's, where we're going, like spirit, believe me, your chances of getting that joint venture done it won't necessarily happen tomorrow. Maybe it's going to take it's going to take a little bit of time, but that's the way I want you to show up. That's the way that I would encourage you to be thinking. And it's not about the words that you're using. It's the way that I want you thinking about the relationship going in. I think that might be a little bit of an adjustment. So if you really look, how do we get there, Road Dog? Like, how do you attract the best high-end coaching clients? I don't know how you worded that, but something along those lines. That's how you do it. Who are they going to become? Like the guy who cleans carpets for a living, if he really cares, it's going to show up. Do you know what I mean? Like, does he really worry about, like, when he, in the carpet, is there stuff there's kids crawling around the carpet? And I'm talking like newborns and whatnot. If he really, 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 really cares, he's going to be speaking in a different level. He's going to be showing up in a different, more powerful way. And I often talk, Road Dog, again, like when you do a live event, you can show up and do a live event, and then you can show up and do a live event, right? Like educate them, entertain them, get them up, dancing, clapping, singing, definitely laughing because they want to be entertained, right? But the thing is, then somebody hears this and they're like, yeah, but that's not me. Okay, the reason that's not you is because you haven't done it, and you got to accept that. In order to become funny, you got to be probably, have some jokes fall flat a little bit, right? And believe me, I am not pretending to be, like when I present, right? A lot of people listening to this have seen me present. I am not the greatest and don't pretend to be, but what I do, I think, and what I try to do, I try to show up at the highest level for the audience, right? So, and by the way, fear, who gives a rat's backside about Karl? This is about you guys. How are you showing up? When you're doing your event, what's the level of preparation? And are you spending as much time on how you can entertain them and make it an enjoyable experience as you are the education? And that's not to say the education is critical and needs to be awesome, but if you entertain them, your material is gonna land at a higher level. And again, my thought is that comes back to your spirit, your purpose. You're not doing this to gain. You're not doing this to get clients, although you are, and you're a business coach. You need to earn money. You need to get clients. But when you really show up, in a higher, more powerful way, I think that those really high-end joint ventures, those high-end clients show up and thick and fast. So there you go, bud. I think I waffled a bit there.
You know what? I want to add this one piece in because you just gave me a gift right there. But the one thing that I'm going to just say to everybody is it's not just also how you're showing up and actually putting yourself out there, because that's one thing. Because the billionaire and the millionaire and the hundredaire, they show up differently in terms of the quality of their posts, in terms of the quality of their associations and everything else.
Yeah.
How do you show up to a podcast? How do you show up to a training? How do you show up to a seminar?
Yeah. Okay.
What questions are you asking?
Keep going, Road Dog. Keep going.
I just the fact that we can week over week. My question is, what are you getting out of this, and what are you implementing inside of your business? Because I just think that there's certain pieces right there. Like you just said something where I'm like, okay, that's what I need to implement in my business this week. Yeah. So how are you listening? Because I think that's just equally as important.
Yeah. Okay. So what I think I just heard is like somebody comes and they buy the course and then they complain because the course didn't work for them.
Yeah.
And then the question is, did you show up powerfully? Did you give yourself, did you follow through? And I think everybody listening can agree that we've all, and by the way, and I have been guilty as charged where I bought programs and didn't show up powerfully. I didn't implement, right? And the question is, the program didn't work. Now, there are very few programs out there that quote unquote, won't work. Some of them work magically, and then some others are a little bit of lead balloons, but you know what I mean? There's something to be taken away. Even the bad stuff, like when you do a course and you're like, well, I'm never doing that. Okay, well, guess what? You just took something away. But importantly, don't buy the course, don't buy the program. And then, is it working for me? Are you giving yourself to it wholly and completely? And again, Road Dog, in closing, I've said this 100 times, but I'll say it 100 times in the future. Like as a business coach, like the biggest issue, a massive, massive, massive problem with the industry is people sign up to become a business coach and then 90 days decide if it's working for them, right? And I'm like, can't do any, like in 90 days, like that's where, that's your line in the sand, in that you become a business coach. You need to become a business coach in your soul, in your spirit, right? And then that's the guy, like you got to put 10 years into this thing. Bezos, Buffett, Dalio, Tony Robbins, I'd put him, Seth Godin. These guys, they don't do anything without a decade as their framework. And that's not to say they don't want to be profitable significantly sooner than 10 years. But when they take on a program, they take on a business unit, they take on a relationship. You buy a dog. You don't buy a dog for Christmas. You buy a dog for a lifetime. I want you to be thinking about that with your business. If you're a business coach, and maybe you're a life coach and a relationship coach and a career, whatever kind of coach you might be, by the way, little X factor, if there's no recurring revenue, please stop it. But you know what I mean? Like, are you completely giving yourself to your career? And that's your spirit, Road Dog. That's it right there. Are you a business coach in your freaking soul, or are you trying to make money? And one's going to make a lot more money than the other when it's all said and done. So what do you think, Road Dog? That's my.
I love it. I got to jump here, but because I'm 10 minutes late for a call. But listen, the thing I'll say is this: it's funny that you say, you got to how you show up. You don't just show up for your wedding day. You show up for the marriage. You don't just show up for the childbirth. You show up as a parent. And how do you show up? Humbly, powerful but humble. Humble to set your ego aside and be willing to learn and listen.
Boom.
So I think
perfect way to end, Shoots. Thank you. Good job.
There it is. So anyways, listen, everybody, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with apparently a couple of mindset experts here, but primarily, the man on top of the hill, King Karl. If you're not on the inside and getting access to the pre-show, or you aren't getting Karl's daily emails, or just want more information on the software or how to build your coaching business, visit focus.com, subscribe today. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share it. And also, of course, we'd appreciate if you'd rate this episode as well, as we know that is a huge part of all this. And I cannot believe it. That is it for another week. So remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody. We'll see you in the next episode.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.